Ever feel like the person next door knows too much about your life? Relax. It's totally fine if they also happen to hate you, isn't it? Because one night, when the lights went out and the walls went silent, I found myself standing face to face with my neighbor, holding the one thing that could destroy me. But what he didn't expect was what I did to him next. Sit back, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into a story that proves the scariest enemy isn't out there in the world, it's living right next door. Now let me introduce you to me, the unlucky guy with the world's loudest, nosiest, most infuriating neighbor, Mr. Higgins. Imagine a man who trims his hedge with military precision, reports every squeaky gate to the HOA, and somehow knows exactly how many seconds I leave my trash can on the curb. Our war started with something small, a misplaced soccer ball. My son accidentally kicked it into his perfect rose garden, and Mr. Higgins acted like we had dropped a nuclear bomb in his backyard. He marched over, red-faced, holding the ball like it was radioactive. But that was just the beginning. From exploding sprinklers, to lawnmowers mysteriously going missing, to one unforgettable night when his cat got stuck in my chimney during a thunderstorm, every week became a new battle. And trust me, the pranks only got bigger, messier, and funnier. But one night, the game went too far. Now, to appreciate how far this little suburban war escalated, you have to understand who Higgins really is. Imagine the kind of guy who keeps a stopwatch for how long you mow your lawn. Imagine the type who waves down delivery drivers just to tell them you're parked 1 inch too far to the left. Higgins wasn't just a neighbor. He was a walking, talking human surveillance drone. First week after the soccer ball incident, Higgins logged at least 7 official HOA complaints against me. 7. In 1 week. Do you know how hard it is to invent 7 different ways to be a nuisance in the suburbs? First complaint, my wind chimes were unlawfully loud. Second, my mailbox leaned at an offensive angle. And thirdly, my trash can lid smelled unneighborly. Unneighborly? Who writes that? At first, I tried to ignore him, smile, wave, pretend I didn't notice when he measured my fence with a ruler, but then came the sprinklers. One hot summer evening, my sprinkler system went haywire. Instead of watering my yard, it turned into Old Faithful shooting a geyser over the fence and soaking Higgins's roses like a fire hose. He came stomping out in his slippers, shaking his fists at the sky like he'd just been cursed by Zeus himself. His robe was plastered to his body, and I nearly passed out laughing as he slipped in the mud. But Higgins didn't think it was funny. The very next morning, my lawnmower vanished. Poof! Gone! My shed door was wide open. Now, I'm not saying Higgins stole it, but 2 days later, I happened to walk past his garage and see my mower sitting there like it had just enrolled in witness protection. When I called him out, he shut the garage door and yelled, "Maybe you should be more responsible with your belongings." That's when I knew this was war. We traded blows like boxers in a comedy match no one asked for. He put plastic flamingos in my yard, tacky neon ones that glowed at night. I retaliated by sneaking over at dawn and swapping his bird bath water with blue Kool-Aid. His face when he saw 3 pigeons splashing in Smurf juice? Priceless. But the cat? Oh, the cat. It was a stormy night, the kind that rattles windows and makes the trees bend like dancers in the wind. I was sipping cocoa when I heard scratching and a meow echoing down my chimney. I froze. I thought a demon was trying to claw its way into my living room. I grabbed a flashlight, shined it up, and 2 glowing eyes stared back. It was Winston, Higgins's cat. I shouted for my wife. She shouted louder. The kids started crying. The thunder crashed. And outside, Higgins himself stood in the rain, screaming, "Don't you hurt him!" Like I was performing a ritual sacrifice in my fireplace. I ended up bribing Winston out with a can of tuna. He hissed, scratched my hand bloody, and sprinted straight into Higgins's arms. Higgins glared at me like I had trapped the cat in there on purpose. By then, the whole neighborhood had caught on. People started watching from their windows like it was a reality television show. Kids made bets on who would win the next round. Some swore Higgins was an ex-CIA agent. Others whispered he had a panic room under his house full of gold bars and secrets. I didn't care. All I knew was that Higgins wasn't going to beat me. Which brings us to the barbecue war. On sunny Saturday, I invited a few friends over for burgers and ribs. We were laughing, grilling, music playing. Then Higgins showed up at the fence, arms folded, looking like he'd been sucking lemons since birth. "Some of us don't appreciate the smell of burnt meat polluting the air," he sneered. I ignored him. 10 minutes later, the unmistakable stench of burning something drifted over. I looked up. Higgins was at his own grill, except he wasn't cooking food. No, Higgins was burning rubber, or shoes, or something that smelled like a mix of tires and old gym socks. The smoke blew straight into my yard. My guests gagged. Higgins smirked. It was on. From there, the pranks escalated like we were living in a cartoon. I swapped his welcome mat for one that said, "Go away." He replaced mine with one that said, "Not soon enough." He planted fake snakes in my yard. I countered with a motion-activated skeleton that screamed when he walked past. Every single time, Higgins would swear he was calling the authorities. I swear the police got so tired of him they stopped answering his number. But through all the chaos, one thought kept nagging me. How far would Higgins go? He was meticulous, calculated, and there was something about him that didn't add up. Sometimes I'd see strange visitors at odd hours. Other times I'd catch him burying things in his garden late at night, glancing over his shoulder like a guilty man. And then came that one night. The night the lights went out, the neighborhood went pitch black. No hum of air conditioners, no glow of TVs, just silence. I glanced out the window and there it was. Higgins's house, darker than a cave, no porch light, no sound. At first, I thought it was just the blackout, but then I saw movement, a shadow creeping around his shed. I should have called the cops. I should have. But after months of Higgins accusing me of everything from excessive laughter to unauthorized holiday decorations, I knew he'd find a way to twist it back on me. So instead, curiosity won. I crept into my backyard, climbed the fence, and landed with a soft thud. That's when it happened. The rake I landed on clattered to the ground, the shadow froze, and then he turned. It wasn't some intruder. It wasn't a burglar. It was Higgins. And he wasn't holding gardening tools. He was clutching a metal box, a locked, heavy box. The way his eyes widened told me everything. Whatever was inside, he didn't want me to see it. "Stay out of this," he snapped, clutching it to his chest. His voice was low, almost desperate. After months of warfare, of sleepless nights and prank battles, there was no way I was backing off. "What's in the box, Higgins?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just glared, like he was daring me to step closer. And that's when I realized this wasn't a game anymore. This was something bigger, something dangerous, something that could destroy me. But Higgins didn't expect what I did next. Higgins stood there, clutching that metal box like it contained the nuclear codes. His knuckles were white, his breathing uneven, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked less like the smug commander of suburbia and more like a cornered man. "What's in the box, Higgins?" I repeated, stepping forward. "None of your business," he hissed. His eyes darted around, scanning the darkness as if even the blackout itself might betray him. And then, as if fate wanted to crank the tension up to maximum, the clouds above rumbled, lightning split the sky, and the rain started to fall hard. The box slipped, just for a second, but it was enough. My hand shot out, and I grabbed it. "Don't!" Higgins snarled, lunging toward me. But the slick grasp betrayed him. His foot slipped, and down he went, sprawling in the mud. The box hit the ground with a metallic thud. I froze. He froze. The box had popped open. Inside wasn't money, wasn't jewelry, wasn't some suburban spy kit like I half expected. It was photos. Dozens, maybe hundreds, stacked and stuffed inside. And they were all of me. Me mowing the lawn. Me taking out the trash. Me sitting on my porch with my coffee. Me at the barbecue. Me at the hardware store. Even me inside my house, blurred but still recognizable, through the window. I stumbled back, my stomach turning to ice. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Higgins scrambled up, mud streaking his robe, his eyes wild. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I snapped. "You've been spying on me for months, maybe years. You're obsessed." Lightning flashed again, illuminating his face. And that's when I saw it. The fear. Real fear. Not the smug annoyance I was used to. This wasn't a man gloating over his secret hobby. This was a man terrified I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. "You need to put those back," he said, his voice shaking. "Now." "Or what?" I shot back, clutching a handful of the photos. "You'll file another HOA complaint? You'll measure my lawn to death?" His jaw tightened. "Or you won't make it to tomorrow." Her heartbeat, the storm around us didn't matter. The blackout didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the two of us. Standing in the rain, years of petty feuds boiling into something darker. And that's when I did it. The thing Higgins never expected? I laughed. A deep, uncontrollable laugh that echoed through the storm. Because in that insane moment, surrounded by photos of my own face staring at a man who might actually want me gone, I realized just how absurd our war had become. And maybe, just maybe, how dangerous. Okay, Higgins, I said, tucking the photos under my arm. If you want them back, you're gonna have to play by my rules now. That was the night everything changed. The next morning, the power came back, but nothing felt normal. Higgins didn't stomp around the yard or yell at delivery drivers. He stayed inside, blinds drawn, the metal box nowhere in sight, and I could feel it, the tension between us, buzzing like a live wire. I thought about telling my wife, thought about calling the cops, but what would I even say? Hi, officer, my neighbor keeps a shrine of stalker photos of me in his shed. They'd laugh me off the line. So instead, I did the stupidest, most dangerous thing I could have done. I decided to fight fire with fire. If Higgins wanted to play surveillance games, fine, two can play. I bought binoculars, a camera, even installed a secondhand drone I found online. Every move Higgins made, I tracked. Every shadow in his yard, every light flickering in his window, I wrote it down. And that's when I saw something I'll never forget. 3 nights later, just past midnight, Higgins opened his garage. He wasn't in his robe this time. He was dressed sharp suit, tie, shiny shoes. He carried a briefcase, locked it in his trunk, and drove off. Where? At that hour? I followed. Not in my car, too obvious. I used the drone, keeping it low, just high enough to track his taillights. My heart pounded as we wound through the empty streets until Higgins pulled into a storage facility. One of those long rows of metal doors, padlocked and numbered. Higgins went to Unit 34, glanced around, then slid inside. For 30 minutes, nothing. Then the door creaked open and he came back out, lighter briefcase in hand. I should have stopped there. Should have let it go. The curiosity, that dangerous little itch, got the better of me. The next day, I rented a unit at the same place, and that night I snuck into his... Inside was... chaos. Files stacked to the ceiling. Maps with pins jabbed all over the city. Boxes of more photos, not just of me, but of other neighbors too. The Johnsons. The Millers. Even kids waiting at the bus stop. And in the center of it all, a corkboard with one word scrawled across the top. Enemies. Every photo, every file, every scrap of paper connected by red string like some detective's nightmare, and right at the top, circled 3 times in red ink, was my face. I backed out, my pulse hammering. Higgins wasn't just a nosy neighbor. He was building dossiers, cataloging us, hunting us. But why? The answer came faster than I expected. Because that same week, neighbors started disappearing. First, it was old Mrs. Harper, 2 doors down. Everyone thought she'd gone to visit her sister. Then the Johnsons packed up suddenly and left town without a word. Then one night, I saw police lights outside the Miller house, and the next morning, gone, empty. And through it all, Higgins's roses looked brighter, his lawn greener, his smirk wider. I knew then, whatever Higgins was planning, it wasn't just about me anymore. And I had to stop him. But stopping Higgins wasn't easy, because while I was trying to outsmart him, he was already 3 steps ahead. I'd find strange notes in my mailbox. You're next. My car alarm would go off in the middle of the night, and when I ran outside, there'd be no one, just footprints in the grass leading back toward Higgins's yard. The man wasn't just my enemy. He was playing with me. And then came the night that brought us full circle. The blackout, the storm, the photos, the box. I thought I had the upper hand, clutching those pictures, ready to expose him. But Higgins, he wasn't done yet. Because as I stood there, photos pressed to my chest, Higgins whispered words that froze me to my core. You think I'm your enemy? He grinned, teeth glinting in the lightning. You have no idea who I really am. And then he lunged. The rain pounded harder, the storm swallowing the neighborhood in flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. Higgins lunged at me, his face twisted, veins bulging like the storm had crawled inside him. His words echoed in my ears, I know everything about you. I barely had time to move before he slammed into me, both of us crashing onto the wet grass. My breath shot out of me, and for a second, the only thing I could hear was the storm and his ragged breathing in my ear. He wrestled clumsily, slipping in the mud like 2 dads in a backyard wrestling league no one asked for. I grabbed at his arms, he shoved me back, my elbow smacking against the garden gnome that had been mocking me for months. Its painted grin shattered against the ground, fitting. The noise drew attention. Porch lights flickered on, curtains twitched, and soon the whole cul-de-sac was alive with whispers and gasps. "Is that Higgins?" Mrs. Donnelly whispered from her porch, clutching her robe tight. "Oh my God, they're fighting!" Another voice called. Phones appeared, videos rolled. Just my luck, the night I could die at the hands of my neighbor, and it was going to trend before the cops even showed up. "Get off me!" I shouted, shoving him back with every ounce of strength I had left. He stumbled, fell against his prized rose bushes, crushing them in a spray of petals. His eyes widened, pure murder flashing in them. "You ruined everything," he howled. Then, from the dark, I saw something clutched in his mud-soaked hands. It glinted under the lightning. The one thing that could ruin me. A folder. A thick, beaten-up folder filled with pages, photos, printouts, my life. Every late bill, every petty mistake, every embarrassing HOA notice, every dumb thing I'd ever tried to hide, all in there. My chest tightened. "You think this was a game?" he sneered, holding it up like a trophy. "I know it all. I know you. And when I'm done, everyone will too." Neighbors gasped. Someone muttered, "Is he serious?" And for a moment, I froze. But then, something inside me clicked. The storm, the audience, Higgins dripping with mud, an obsession. It was absurd, insane, hilarious even, and I wasn't about to let him win. So I laughed, right in his face. "You know everything," I said, stepping closer, rain plastering my shirt to my skin. "Then you should have known this." And with one swift move, I snatched his folder, spun, and hurled it straight into the air. Lightning cracked, rain turned the papers into soggy confetti, and the wind carried them like secrets scattering across the whole street. The crowd erupted, gasps, laughter, phones capturing every second. Higgins let out a guttural scream, diving after the pages like a madman chasing butterflies. He slipped, face planting into his ruined roses. His precious roses. The neighborhood howled with laughter. And then came the chaos. His sprinklers kicked on automatically, blasting jets of water everywhere. Someone's car alarm went off. The neighbor's cat, yes, the same one from the chimney incident, bolted from under a car and launched itself onto Higgins's back, clawing and screeching like it was fighting for me. It was pure bedlam. The war had peaked. I stood there, chest heaving, watching him flail in the mud as the storm in his own backyard turned against him. Finally, dripping and defeated, Higgins looked up at me, hair plastered across his face, eyes wild. "This isn't over," he hissed. But I leaned down, close enough for only him to hear, and whispered, "It already I." The crowd cheered, laughed, some clapped. And as the storm finally began to ease, the neighborhood went quiet again, except for the murmurs of people replaying the scene in their heads, ready to spread it like wildfire. That night, as I locked my door, soaked to the bone, I couldn't help but smirk. Because here's the truth. The scariest enemy isn't out there in the world. It isn't in some dark alley or distant battlefield. The scariest enemy is the one who knows your trash day, your Wi-Fi password, your every move, and lives just a wall away. And trust me, I learned that the hard way.